Yo, how's it going? Uh, okay, in that Bible in Revelations, it talks about Mystery Babylon has fallen. It talks about the ships, the people on them ships. And they cry out, they say, "Where will we sell our goods?" Well, look around, where are we at right now? You know, who's who's buying all China's stuff? Babylon was a place that had a lot of different nationalities, right? So they didn't know nothing about America when they was writing the Bible. So if I was in John on the island of Patmos and I was trying to describe America, how would I do that? And then when you read the book of Revelation, it's like, well, it kind of stands out. So uh, that's why a lot of people prep. It doesn't take a whole lot to look around. And I think for the last 5 to 7 years, a lot of people have said, well, this is getting pretty bad. I better get ready type of deal, whatever. And, well, what is ready? I submit to you, ready is ready to meet Jesus. Okay? So that's a big deal. And then, like, how are you going to sustain life without electric? You know what I mean? Because that's, we see even Kawasaki making a motorcycle that has legs instead of wheels now. So you like just ride this thing. It looks like you're riding some type of mountain cat made of metal. That was very interesting to see. And, where would you go? What would you do with something like that? I mean, that would be so cool to have a, Kawasaki made mountain lion about the size of a Kawasaki Ninja. You just hop on this cat's back and operate it like a motorcycle to, just put it in gear and take off, but instead of rolling, it's walking. It was pretty cool to see. I thought that was pretty neat. Anyway, then I was just off the phone with Sweet Tea, and I was talking with her about the China makes the little crappy chips for like a watch. So like, if we don't get no manufacturing from China. If China just cuts off the manufacturing, just like, hey, you know what? We ain't sending you nothing. Where is America at in that position? And I'm gonna say, we just pivot probably. You know what I mean? But do we have the capacity to just manufacture the parts to keep this truck running? I don't know if we do or not, to be honest with you. That's a good question. You know what I mean? And in the long term, if we were to up our manufacturing capabilities and take the time to do stuff, well, we'd probably be better off in the long run or whatever. I mean, in a perfect world, it makes sense. But one of the things that people don't realize is that we might not have that kind of time. And a lot of our infrastructure and equipment, the controls, like those Johnston controls that affect our agriculture, that affect our shipping, our ports, all this kind of stuff. And when you say ports, you think of this deep water port with this giant shipping ship, but there's port of entries all over the country. They're at all the airports. You got Alliance Airport there at DFW. That's an international port. That's an airport. Okay, and then you have these, like the International Bridge in McAllen. I go down there quite a bit. I stay out of Mexico. I don't go to Mexico, but I get right there beside it, and I'll be right there beside it, right? So that's a thing. And then we, us truck drivers, know that I'm going to say there's probably It's pretty close to 1-to-1. Patriot to foreign-born truck driver. Okay, so I know that Biden allowed 65,000 right before he left office to come over here and drive trucks. So, we go over here and piss off Iran and all the Muslims. We piss off all these Russians. And then, piss off all these Chinese people. I see Chinese truck drivers, and you can always spot them because they got them little bitty cigarettes just like a pinner. And when you talk to those guys, you talk to them, they just got dead eyes, man. They're not truckers. They did not come here from China as some type of student to become a truck driver. It's just like, they're not truck drivers. Okay, and then when you look at what it would take, if you had to organize effort to just block roads, you're just a dumbass and you wreck the truck, it causes a certain amount of backup. Well, if you were actually trying, and then if you know anything about a DEF tank, the diesel exhaust fluid and diesel fuel, and how close that is to a bomb. Dude, Timothy McVeigh at Oklahoma City bombing, he had some barrels that had fuel, and he had some, urea used as fertilizer. And urea is like one of the main ingredients of DEF. So you take any, you take any of these amateur pharmaceutical type folks with the Sudafed crowd, the tweakers, they can take the stuff at the truck stop gas pump and make it go boom. That's a thing. There's no way our adversaries don't know that. And there's no way all of them that was here when Trump was elected, and then add 65,000. What's the chance of there being a sleeper cell in the United States operating a trucking company? It's like 100%. Like, I guarantee you they're out there. Like, no bullshit. No tinfoil hat, whatever, you know what I mean? And then you got these giant crossings where you see, like, for road and rail. Like, you got to get across that Mississippi River. Everybody, I hear a lot of people talking about the Panama Canal, but you got to get across that Mississippi River. That ain't no joke. That's more than you're going to do. You get over there at St. Louis, that's a pretty substantial situation. You get over at Memphis, that's a pretty substantial situation. I think Iowa 80 has a pretty substantial, So to not have the trucks to deliver in the cities, America runs on trucking. I don't care what anybody tells you, that these trucks don't show up. How long does it take for that grocery store to go empty? Then how long before it goes bad and everybody turns on each other because they're out of food? So if solar flare, blah, blah, whatever. It doesn't really say the Bible, but it does say that Mystery Babylon Falls. So, you want a good actual Bible, okay? You're going to want that. You're going to want to read that. If you ain't got time for it now, if you ain't got time to go work out, go learn a little about how to cook, build a fire, purify some, water. Go get you a scoop of that Mississippi River and do what it takes to be able to drink that and make dinner with a catfish out of the same river. Figure out how to do that. Get a little Boy Scout skill, stuff like that as a hobby this summer. You'd be well off if you did. One of the things that we do at the house is to I hide all the keys to the vehicles, and I turn the water off, and I turn off the breaker box randomly. Like, I'll just come home and turn everything off. Oh yeah, they really love it. But just turn off your breaker box. It's no electric. Hide the keys to the car. No driving around. Turn off the water. What are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Do you got that generator ready to go? Get your generator out. Get it plugged in to your refrigerator. Try to save your food. All the immediate, you know. But what happens 2 weeks later when there ain't nothing for the generator? You know what I mean? And your population density becomes a major factor. And, you know, and the big question, I mean, the enormous, is like, you know, how is a truck driver going to get home? You know, for me, like, I'm out here in the truck, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in Missouri right now. You know what I mean? So, I could actually probably get where I needed to go and be all right. But man, if I'm in freaking New Jersey or San Francisco or something like that, you know what I mean? So I'm pretty well marked for death in the quest to hand these Bibles out. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's either or, you know what I mean? And in the Bible, it explains that the coward will burn. So, like, a coward is just somebody that's smart enough to be scared and, you know, back down. But a hero and somebody that has courage and stuff like that, that's somebody that does it anyway. They know they're going to die, and they do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? That's the valor and stuff like that. Like, they know that, hey, there's a pretty good chance, you know what I mean? And then, like, you just rely on God to get you through type of deal. So that's real powerful too. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, you know what I mean? So it's like I just keep spreading these Bibles around the whole countryside, like anybody that'll take one, you know what I mean? If I can just get them in the hands of the people, and then I know what it's like to live in this truck and be set apart, you know what I mean? And as I've witnessed to some truckers about being set apart and what that means, and how we can sing into our environment. You know what I mean? Taking the praise and worship on the highways and stuff like that, and establish a goodness. There's something about blowing a shofar, clapping and singing, and the worship brings in the presence. It says where two or more are gathered, He's with you. I don't know if that counts, if the Holy Ghost counts as He's gathering with me, or if that is God showing up. However you want to look at that deal, but I don't even think you need two. I mean, the Bible says where two or more are gathered. You know what I mean? But do you really need two? I don't know. It seems like I've done my best confession when it was just me and God. And seems like I make these videos. This is just a little peek into my world of difficulty. It is difficult too. Say the real good guy this morning. I got the inkling that he's supposed to pray for me to have peace. So once I got that inkling, I got out of the truck, walked straight back over there. I said, "Hey, I got an inkling that I'm supposed to ask you to pray for me to have peace." And he was more than happy to pray for me to have peace. Real good fella. So I really appreciated that. And made a good run today. Freaking Waffle House wanted $28, man. I'm like, dude, what happened to Waffle House? I used to get smothered and covered with a couple of eggs for $5. It was $28.50. But it's the last day of the carb cycle, so, you know, I gotta get back on the stick. I don't know why. I guess it's just a torture factor. It seemed like you would think I'd be smart enough that on the carb cycle week I would do the most lifting, but I always end up just laying around when I eat the carbs. You know, like I had biscuit and gravy one day. I had a freaking waffle with syrup and peanut butter chips today, and yeah, that tea right there's got sugar in it. You know, it's green tea with ginseng and honey, and probably Chinese honey. I just watched a thing about that. How China's using rice syrup to cut the honey, and then they send it to Taiwan, and then Taiwan sends it over here, so they make Honey Nut Cheerios. Everything is a lie. Everything is a lie. Like, man, if I could get out of this truck, sell everything I own, go move into a shed, create a garden, dig a water well, be walking distance to a creek. Yeah, that's living life. That's living life, man. But I can't reconcile it because these people need these Bibles. You know what I mean? That's just like, the things a man dreams of. It's like, yeah, the grass is always greener. There's probably somebody in a shed right now watching this talking about, man, I wish I had a CDL. This dude's out here making money. I wish I could go to Waffle House and spend $28. I had $28 to eat dinner in 5 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I appreciate what I got. You know what I mean? I've been there. You know what I mean? I've been there. I've worked all day long for a freaking sandwich, and then the sandwich had mold on it. That really happened. That really happened. I worked on a roof all day long. I stepped out in faith one time. It was cold and everything like that, but I knew some guys in Missouri that was roofing and up by Joplin, and I went over there. I call it Cameron Roofing. Shout out to Cameron. He's a real good guy. But a real redneck. I mean, stars and bars. Straight up redneck. But he listened to rap music, and it was the funniest thing because it was when that song, From the Window to the Wall. And this dude's in like a, extended cab Chevy, like a, 98 or whatever. This is like 2004 or whatever. And, loud pipes, the whole 9 yards. And he's kind of gimped up in one arm. His hat a little sideways, you know what I mean? Kind of looked like a tweaker, long, lanky type of fella. He got that truck and he turned that music on. From the window to the wall. And I mean, it was the explicit version, you know what I'm saying? And like, he's got his freaking rebel hat. I mean, yeah, it was something else. And the whole crew was like that. And at the end of the day, that one guy, he's like, he says, well, where are you staying at, Skip? I was like, hell, I'm just working. I don't have no place to stay. He said, no shit. I said, yeah. I said, I was just kind of hoping it'd work out somehow, And we were working for Cameron, but it was one of his guys. He let me stay on his couch for a week, and well, I'll never forget that, man. And that first day, at the end of the day, he gave us all a sandwich. When I opened mine up, it had mold on it. And I just peeled that mold off of that sandwich. I just took the mold off of it and just threw it down and just ate the sandwich. Because I was so hungry, man. It's like, yeah. And then, I mean, well, at the end of the day, it was like lunchtime. But that was all I ate that day, was that moldy sandwich. And I don't know if you've ever roofed a house, but you'll get hungry. I know what hungry is. I know what the hard work is. I even know what slave labor is. Like, I worked for $7.22 a month in prison. And, I mean, went out into the world and had a actual job. Probably a job that today would probably pay $800 to $1,000 a month easily. I did that job, and I would get a bar of soap. I would get a bar of soap and like Jesus stuff. You know what I mean? I remember this funny story. I gotta tell this one. I probably told it before, but so I did, you know, a little bit of time in the juvenile system and stuff off and on. And anyway, later, other staff, and then it popped up and they're like, hey, you have a kid. But the kid's like 11 years old, right? And I was 14. My 14th birthday, count back 9 months, is her birthday. Okay? And then I kind of knew there was a chance, whatever, but like the chick run off. Like, I found out she was pregnant after she'd already left with some dude that was like 36, and she was like 22. Okay, so back then I had a truck and I was working and stuff like that since I was about 9. Well, I was 7. First time I bought a truck, I was 7 years old, and but I used to ride the motorcycles, all kinds of stuff, whatever. Anyway, back then, and we smoked a lot of weed. And back then, I would not date a girl if she didn't have her own place to live, and a car, and old enough to buy beer. Like, that was my requirements. And you know, certain look about them, you know, but the looks was a very low standard. Looking back on the situation, these were not dimes. We will leave it there. And anyway, not like now. My wife is beautiful now. Like, I look at my wife and I think about some of those. I was like, yeah, man, that's terrible. Anyway, basically, it was statutory rape. Well, not basically. I mean, I was 13 and she was 22. You know what I mean? But I've been a full-grown man. I've been talking like this my whole life. They called me a 40-year-old midget in kindergarten. Like, I would drive my mom and dad and the band home from the bar because I smoked weed. I didn't drink. So I could drive. They couldn't. And, like, I never knew why people smoked cigarettes. I was like, you don't even get high. Why would you smoke a cigarette? You know what I mean? Anyway. I presented that argument to I think it was the 6th grade teacher in Locust Grove. Because they'd be like, do you have cigarettes? I was like, no, why would I have cigarettes? I smoke weed. I was from the end of the last dirt road. I didn't realize other people grew up and like they were allowed to be children for a long time. Like, I was just like a person. Like, everybody out there is just a person. If you don't do it for yourself, it ain't happening. So these things that they call adult responsibilities and stuff like that, I mean, I've had that my whole life. Anyways, time goes by, I get a warrant for child support because this chick files for DHS food stamps. Well, in the state of Oklahoma, they're like, who's your daddy type of deal. And then my name and a couple other names got put on the paper. And then, like, the other dude showed up, and they ain't the dude, and they just stuck me with it, right? And, you know, looking now, it's obviously my kid. You know what I mean? She's obviously my daughter. I've never said that she's not my daughter, but I continually say that it was statutory rape because it was. But anyway, the arrearage made the amount over $5,000, so I try to pay, and they're like, yeah, you can pay this, but you're still going to prison because it's a felony. They call that failure to provide for a minor child. And this whole process played out years before I found out. And then I find out, I'm just like, well, they think I'm feloniously poor. I guess I'll move to West Palm Beach, Florida. That does not sound like the place where a poor person would live, right? And that wasn't my plan either. That was God, because I just answered an ad in the paper. It said roofing must be willing to travel. That's where they traveled to. That's where I went. Anyways, years go by, and I go to prison on this deal. Here's the point of this story. I'm gonna tell you right now, I could circle the entire earth 3 times before I get to the point. So I get to prison. They send me to I get pulled over in Florida. They put me in jail. In the Florida jail, I'm on the transition floor of this, high-rise jail thing. And you look out the window and you see people getting on the Carnival cruise ships to go to the Bahamas. So, are you talking about cruel and unusual punishment? Like, you're sitting there, you look out the window, you see a cruise ship, and everybody's on the ship just waving at their people. See you later. You know what I mean? I'm like, are you serious right now? I'm like, this is cruel and unusual. Anyway, these 2 cops come and pick me up. And I'm just like wearing shorts, man, and they take me, and it's cold. Oh man, it was ups and downs on the ride. Anyway, I get to the county jail, sit there for a while. They hit me with this go to prison deal. And then I pull chain. I go down to A&R, and I'm there for like 45 days or whatever. And I get there, and it's like the first time I've actually been in a prison, and they got everybody from all levels of security there, right? So, like, you got to, kind of keep an eye out on what's going on type of deal. And they got the guard up in the bubble, and they got a big square. They let us out the thing. You can walk around or whatever, call your people, whatever you're going to do. And then you walk in there, like the bubble's one story up, and you're down here like this. Well, they can look off to the side. Here's a shower. And I go in there and take a shower. And they give you this little bitty old sliver of soap, man. And of course, everybody's heard the joke, don't drop the soap. What do I do the first day in prison? I walk in there, I set my stuff down, I walk around the corner naked, and there's like 4 naked dudes, and this guy is walking towards me, and he's just swinging and just pissing everywhere. And I'm like, he's like, I'm sorry. When the water gets on me, we're like, I was like, get away from me, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I am fixed to kill this guy for walking towards me, just swinging and whizzing. And he seen the look on my face, and he just went on about over to yonder. I go over there and push the button for the water to come out, and I start washing my hair. Son of a... I freaking dropped the soap, man. And I just kicked that soap as soon as it hit the floor, because I play hacky sack, right? As soon as it hit the floor, I just kicked that soap as hard as I could, man. And I just act like I still had it. I just kept on washing. So day 1, drop the soap. And they make you watch this video, right? And you go in there, and they call it the candy bar video, right? So basically what it is if you find a candy bar on like you leave your cell, you come back and there's a candy bar on your pillow. If you eat the candy bar, the candy bar is an invitation for sexual stuff. And yeah, anyway, but they got this super cheesy video about it. So it's like, when you get to where you're going in prison, here's some things you need to know. You know what I mean? So it's like this. It's like an after school special for prison. And you could everybody that's seen it before, whatever, it's like it's hilarious, right? Because like everybody that knows what's up, they're just like, whatever. And then, but like all the new guys, everybody, a lot of people are scared. You know what I mean? It's like you hear stories and stuff like that or whatever. You don't know what to expect. Blah blah blah. Anyway, so we watched the candy bar video and all that, and then they do this deal. They call it Feed the Vampires, where they'll come get you in the middle of the night. Like they'll feed you all this like liver and onions and stuff for like 4 days. And then they'll come get you at like 3 a.m. And they'll take you to this place and they just pull all this blood out of you. They just take all your blood. They call it Feed the Vampires. And yeah, which is crazy. And then there's a joke that if you're over 40, they check your prostate. They call that guy Goldfinger. Anyway, there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories that I will leave out, but they are hilarious, and most of it's not true. Anyway, in my experience, it wasn't true. Anyway, I guess there's Anyway, so I go to. They sent me out to the Panhandle, and I get to this prison, and I'm there for about 45 minutes, and they take me and this other guy to a different place. And the whole time they told me I was going south, and then they sent me out west. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to the right place here. And that guard comes up there, he says, I need my 2 beavers. And I'm like, beavers? You know what I mean? And then I look at my packet or whatever else like that they gave me, and it said Beaver. Well, there's a town called Beaver, Oklahoma. And then like me and this black dude, we walk over there to where the guy's at, and we were at the prison, William S. Keys. And then they were taking us to the work center out there. Anyway, we both walked up there, and the guard opens the fence, right? And like I'm just like, I look at the dude, he looks at me, and we're like, neither one. They're like, he's like, oh, come on, man, you know, because we're like, we ain't walking out this fence, you know, that's the gun line, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So the cop walks out, and we walk out. They lock the door behind us and stuff, and they just let us walk over and get in this car, you know, and yeah, then we drive for like 2 more hours to get out to Beaver. And we get in there and everything. I got my little box of stuff or whatever. And they give you a few changes of clothes and everything, pair of boots and all that. And they got these little bunk beds. And at the end of each bunk bed's a locker. Well, you're walking in this deal. It was basically an old gymnasium converted to barracks. So I walk in there, and there's this dude. I mean, this dude's just, jacked. And there's a black dude on this side, white dude on this side. The black dude was a little bit taller, but the white dude was a little bit more jacked. And, you know, I'm walking up there and everything, and that guy says, there's rent due up on this block. And I just laughed, because I'm thinking to myself, I ain't got no money. And I didn't think about any payments the other ways, everything like that. So when he said that, I got this box in my hand, right? And I just laughed. You know what I mean? And I walked over there and I set that box down or whatever, and I just started making my bed. You know what I mean? And I laughed, and as I laughed, I just walked right in between them, wherever else like that, and I kind of watched at the corner of my eye, and I seen that one, he was like, the other one was like, you know what I mean? And they must have thought I was a tough fella. But it didn't dawn on me while I'm making my bed, put my stuff up, like, oh man, they were challenging me to a fight. Like, it didn't click. And in that moment, I appeared to be courageous. But I wasn't courageous. I was too ignorant to be scared. I didn't realize the danger I was in. I didn't realize they were trying to extort me for money or sex or whatever they come up with. You know what I mean? And they thought I knew what they were talking about and stuff, but I did not. Anyway, so that's why I am a felon, and that's why I'm not allowed to have guns and stuff like that or whatever. I talked to get it fixed and stuff like that. It's like $7,000, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't really need to worry about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see how my life would change at all if it would be legal for me to carry a gun. You know, I don't think my day would change at all. I don't see myself going out and spending the money for the armament and ammunition and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff to be outfitted. You know what I mean? Because it's going to have to be like a grid down, do or die situation. And in that moment, I'm a get it how you live kind of guy. Always have been. So, I mean, if the rule of law has left, then they say some of this stuff is perishable skills and everything, and I can see that. You know what I mean? But, you know, once these glasses get broke, I'm pretty well blind, and I can't whoop the whole world, but I know you can't hurt what you can't hit. So, you know, I'm going full Vietnamese on this deal. You know what I mean? Camo. And all your electronicals and night visions and all this other kind of stuff like that. That's just every bit of it makes you more of a target. You know what I mean? I started watching some stuff, some prepper stuff, specifically because like I wanted to see like who's really taking us down that militia road type of thing, and they seem like they're actually doing some of these various things that a militia would do as far as organizational and all this other kind of stuff, and anybody approaching levels of Gaddafi type of thing, they're going to be some of the first ones to get taken out. You know what I mean? And this was, I was considering a lot of this stuff during the Obama times and stuff like that, and the Jade Helm and all that was going on when I first moved to Texas, and they just happened to have a flood. So like they had like a couple Black Hawks. They were getting people out of the creek. And I remember asking Sweet Tea, I said, "Hey, is this normal right here?" And they were talking about how they were practicing to take over Houston or something like that. Had been mentioned or whatever. And there was a lot of that stuff. But if you go back and you think about it, and you go back to some of the times, and you go back and you watch some of the videos, and Jonathan Kahn and the Shemitah year and all that kind. I always hated that dude. I don't know what the deal was with that guy. I can't really say I hate him, but I always hated that dude. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know him or anything like that or whatever, but like, I just felt like if it didn't set right. Like my bullshit-o-meter was going off. I couldn't quite, to this day, I couldn't tell you what he got right and what he got wrong, but it seemed like he's full of shit. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust what he had to say. And most of what he talked about, I had no control over, was why I never really focused. You know what I mean? That's something that I really want you guys, anybody watching this long, hopefully, are you not entertained? Hopefully you're being entertained. But I want you to know that it said something about, are you not entertained? It talks about the sword that proceedeth out of his mouth. And then I heard a guy point out the fact of there's a prophet like predicting the future, and there's a prophet as far as prophesying. If we're going to church it up, is somebody talking about like quoting the Bible and stuff like that or whatever. You know what I mean? And I've been accused of having a gift, and I've been called out in churches by preachers before, and saying, "Hey, you got a gift, gift." And I'm just like, you might be mistaking my, constant talking and intelligence for something else. And I've always been a little too humble about it in a church setting type of thing, because it's just, it's an honor above me. You know what I mean? I can do everything to the left. Like, I know Jesus saved you and all this kind of stuff, but I don't know if I make the cut. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to say it. Maybe that's something geared in me for humility or whatever. Like, running crews and doing work, I never, ever, not one single time did I ever ask anybody to do anything on a job site that I couldn't do myself. Except for like, electrician that just knows what they're doing and I don't know. You know what I mean? But as far as like hard stuff or like working all day in the sun and all these various, difficulties. And I have seen difficulties, let me tell you. And but I would not place a burden on another man that was more than I could hold. You know what I mean? Like if it was, and I'll quit before I break bones. That was one of the things. Like, I didn't get to play football and all that kind of stuff because we were too far from town. And then when even though I was splitting wood as a young man and a young kid and stuff like that, I did not. Mom always said, stop before you hurt yourself. You know what I mean? And I took that to heart, you know what I mean? So, like, even when I was on the roof, working down in Florida, freaking 25, 30 years old, and I'm like, seeing somebody struggle, I'm like, you want to know the easy way to do that? Hey, come over here and help him do this. You know, and just laughed about it. But that really is the answer. You know what I mean? If you're struggling, get help. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't hurt yourself. Like, do you have enough? Yeah, you don't use all the fibers of muscle in your legs. If you fired all the muscles at the same time in your legs, even if you're like lethargic and you don't work out, you don't go for a walk. I mean, you're averaging 14 steps a day. Just fat boy living in a truck. You still have so much power in your legs that you can crush your bones. That's why you see these people that they'll like pick up a car in a car wreck and shatter their spine. They're like, yeah, you can pick it up one time, and then you're going to be a quadriplegic the rest of your life. But your muscles are way stronger than you think, and you need your vitamins and minerals in your bones. And then when you see this fluoride and all this kind of stuff that's in the water, that's why you see these kids go out here, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got this Chinese honey in their Cheerios. They got the fluoride and stuff, and then they got the phosphates and all this, you know, silent weapons for quiet wars. And then this kid's been playing a video game, ain't never been jogging, got childhood on pre-onset pre-diabetic or whatever. You know what I mean? And you look at these guys that's been just drinking freaking 3.5 gallons of whiskey every day. I knew a guy, Don, we called him Papa Smurf. This dude ate one chunk of steak a week. The rest of his entire diet was Old Milwaukee's Best. The dude woke up and drank 2 beers and went to work, came home from work and drank a 6-pack, and then he drank 12 to 14 beers every night. Every night, 7 days a week, 30 years, did not have diabetes. But this kid is eating, you know, bowl of cereal, some orange juice, you know, having a pizza and a Coke at lunch, and, you know, so much sugar that he's already got diabetes. Got so much chemicals in the food. Such a lack of minerals in his bones. He goes and tries to be all he can be. He goes out there and does the PT test. He's out there jogging. Jogs for less than 5 minutes and his shin bones collapse. They crush. They crumble. How weak you got to be? I mean, dude. How weak you got to be to take off jogging? I mean, I understand what shin splints are and stuff like that, but dude, it's bad, boys. It's bad. It's bad. And all I can do is make a few of these videos and tell you all to, you know, get right while you can. And what is that? What is that? What does get right while you can even look like? Well, figure out what it means for you. You know what I mean? If you're on here 43 minutes of your life waiting for me to tell you how to live your life, congratulations. Congratulations. You came to the right spot. Read the Bible and do what it says. There you go. There's your bonus. That's an ultimate bonus. Here's the other one. Go get tested. Test your vitamins and minerals, and then eat right. Make sure you're not vitamin and mineral deficient. That's a big deal. That's a real big deal. And then, what are you breathing? So everybody worried about what they're drinking. You know, this filter water, whatever. What are you eating? You know. Is it kosher? You got too much? What's your glycemic index? Blah, blah, blah. Do you live downwind from a factory that's got a lot of pollution going on? You know what I mean? I'm hauling aluminum from Kaiser Aluminum out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I was in there and the place just stinks. It stinks. And I go in there and I'm talking to the guy. And I said, hey, You think it's okay to eat off aluminum foil? He said, hell no. Immediately. You did it's like I poked a sacred cow or something on this old boy. You know what I mean? Like, if you lit this guy's shirt on fire, he would have reacted very similarly with an immediate put it out. He's like, no, hell no. Don't eat or drink out of aluminum. I was like, okay. I was like, I've seen him probably, I've hauled probably 30 loads out of there. And I'll see him, every now and then. I see him this last time. Tell him, I try to give him a new Jesus joke I ain't got him to take a Bible yet. I've tried to give him one. I ain't quite got him, but I ain't quite got him yet. But every time I see him, he knows that we're fixing to talk about it. And I just give him 2 straps. And I talk to him about Jesus. And then like he kind of doesn't want to hear it. But the protocol is you're supposed to stand there and then get some of these little chunks put in there, 2,000 pounds apiece. And they take this chunk of aluminum, they put it in an autoclave that melts it down, and it uses it like a plastic injection mold. But this is an aluminum injection mold called an autoclave. So you put this chunk in there, push the button, it heats up, and produces a carcass of a Tesla. Then they can put all the parts, pieces attached to it, whatever. And I got 26 of them in the back right now. 26 2,000 pound apiece casks. And they're surprisingly small. In the cab of this truck, you could put 4 of them easily if they didn't have seats and a bed. So they stack some in the front, then they leave a gap, they put these 2 straps, and then they put the rest of them at the straps, so if I hit the brakes, they don't slide forward. And then that puts it in the middle of the trailer for weight purposes, because you can only have 34,000 on the tandem trailer axles, and then 34,000 on the truck axles, and then 12,000 on the steer axle. That's the weight requirements for DOT. And you're supposed to stand there and count how many he's putting in there, and then you put the straps where you want them, and then tell him how to stack them in there and everything. And I go in there, I said, and I'm just like, hey man, I go to Subway and I'm like, dude, you're the sandwich guy. Make me a fucking sandwich, man. Well, what kind of sandwich? Just make one the way you like it, I guess. And a lot of times, I did that for about 2 years. I'd go Subway, make a sandwich, tell them to make their favorite sandwich, make it a 12-inch, but wrap it in 2 papers, and I'd just let them keep half, and I'd eat the other half. And which they really like that. They really like that. And I had some of the best sandwiches there. That's when I first they made one that they put like vinegar or something on there. Something I would never think to put vinegar on a hoagie. But it was good. It was good. And they had just right vegetable, right kind of meat, whatever. It made it good. I forget how it was made. But that was like a little adventure I took for about 2 years. Felt like a sandwich. And back then you get a $5 footlong. It's freaking $17 for a sandwich now. It's like, I got a egg salad wedge sandwich on white bread. I mean, this is something I remember thinking to myself, I was poor if I'd eat this. And now I go to the store and I see somebody eating a sandwich. I'm just like, they must be rich. Who can afford a $7 egg salad sandwich? I'm just like, bro, $7. It was $5 for a foot long, and that was a sandwich and a salad all together, and it was a foot long. Dude. Anyway. So I'll go in there and I talk to this dude about Jesus. I'll tell him a couple jokes, and I'll whatever the topic of the day, I'll witness to him a little bit like that. And I'll be like, all right, well, just let me know. And I'll walk back out to the truck. I know I'm supposed to be in there counting that stuff and everything. I'll go out to the truck and I'll do my trip planning and everything to get where I'm going and all that. So I got things I got to do while the truck's not moving. It's part of the job. Well, he kind of likes it too because I'm not in there. You know, who likes being stared at while you're working? You know what I mean? And he'll come out and move the chalk. Generally, by the time I notice he's there, and I'll be like, how many was it? He'll be like, you got 26 today. I'll go back up there and reweigh and go in and fill out the papers. Them guys really like it too. And man, they got a huge plant up there. And I wanted to get like a spiral notebook or something. One of them folders, kind of like we got a folder with the permits. We need one of them for that refuge medical stuff. You know, have a training guide and then product guide with some QR codes linked to videos where I could show them these. I know that they would buy stuff for OSHA compliance. And then like all these different trucks, man, like how in the hell does everybody drive around without a first aid kit? And I got my deal from Refuge Medical. Shout out to Refuge Medical. They sent me, I purchased a Bearfax, so when I get home, we're going to unbox that thing and do a product review on that and post that deal. That'll be fun. And hopefully help them save the earth one person at a time. That'd be real good. But yeah, that was the story of courage, you know. And that's for salvation purposes. Like I'm too stupid. I was. They said you know there's rent due on this block. I just laughed because I ain't had no money. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I just went over to do my thing. You know, and they thought I was tough. They would have beat the shit out of me probably in a fair fight. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we didn't show up to fight fair. So I mean, two of them dudes and me nutting out, squirreled out, freaking Skippopotamus with a pencil. Yeah, I mean, there's a guy in this movie called There Will Be Blood. That guy is tame. He's in that movie Gangs of New York. I was me and this guy Doug. We had some misadventures with some opposition one time, and that guy said it was after the fact. It was years later, and we were watching that movie. There Will Be Blood. And, Doug looks at me and he says, "Who's this guy think he is, the Skippopotamus or something?" Oh man, who's this guy think he is, the Skippopotamus? And I was just like, I just laughed because the funny part was the Skippopotamus actually started out because I was fat. It didn't have nothing to do with any kind of prowess in an altercation. It was there. It's always been there, but I've always been more of a worker, man. I'm way more of a worker. Like my brain. If you have issues that need solving to provide monetarily, I can give solutions. I've done it everywhere. I have worked at so many places that were small and just. It's like God himself gives me the advice. I have to give God the credit. It is not me. But God himself gives me the advice to give to these small outfits. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's roofing, trucking, manufacturing, whatever. I mean, I was working at Gap Roofing, and they make underlayment. So they got basically the biggest roll of paper towels you ever seen in your life, and they dip it in hot tar and make underlayment, that black, they call it felt paper, but it's roofing underlayment that you put on a house. And, I was talking with them and they were doing something, and I just talked about the situation in the moment, and then they did similar. They put their knowledge and know-how behind my basic concept, and then I'm like, why don't you buy that field and like make 4 of these instead of just having these 2? I think they got 6 lines going now in their own paper mill, and that they're profiting like, I think it's $3 to $7 depending on the type of underlayment, and they got 6 lines going. Last I knew, they had 6 lines going, and they were producing a roll of paper, 1 roll every 90 seconds per line. And that's been going on 24/7 for over 20 years. Just making money. Like literally just producing felt paper, and very prosperous. I went back there, I was talking to that guy one time, and what was his name? Well, I don't want to say his name. Passmore. I was talking to his son, which his son was kind of one of the guys that was running the thing. Everything. He's a big old boy, and I was just like, I told him, I said, if you just take what you got going on around here, like, go yonder a little ways and build another one. Then go over there a little ways and build another one. I said, there's freaking houses everywhere. And I told those guys, I said, you know how many houses are in Houston? They got a plant down there. That was it. They ended up moving. They built a plant down there. And that boy that ran that. And then my buddy Doug, he ended up being the guy that ran the whole plant. So you never know, man. You never know where you're going to go. And don't give up. And I think about stuff like that. And it's like, man, when we get to the other side, when do you see these people that like just had this hard, horrible life? And then when we get to yonder, and we see their stature, you know what I mean? Because you got like the lady that lost 2 pennies and looked everywhere to find it or whatever. You know what I mean? Then she was real happy when she found it. And then there's that other lady that gave 2 pennies in her poverty, and everybody else was giving, thousands of dollars of their abundance. You know what I mean? So when you give to God, you know what I mean? It's a big deal with like your financial resources. You know what I mean? And you got to be a good steward. You know what I'm saying? And then there's something that you learn in the struggle. Like there's a guy, and it's like I've known for a while I'm supposed to give this guy a truck. I just don't have one to give him that's the right for his situation. And then the opportunity came up to give him a little bit of money or whatever, and I did a little bit, and then like there's all this other that's needed, necessity style. However, he needs to earn it for himself. He needs a little bit, hey, Jesus, help me type of thing. But the other is, and it's not even for him. Like, he struggled before, but he's got kids. His kids need to see the struggle so that they know how to go and do and get. So the education of the come up and get it how you live being transferred to his kids and the next generation. Like, I don't want to rob him of that. There was a point out in Tennessee one time. Me and my wife was running team, and we see this old couple, and she needed to talk to him, and we talked to him. Turned out that it was their anniversary, and their house had burnt down a couple years before, and they were living in the shell of the house. And that China buffet was where they ate when they had gotten married, 20 years before or whatever. Which I may be getting the story wrong, or they may have been lying. I don't know. Anyways, as we left, my wife prayed for me, everything like that. So we left. I had $300 in my hand. I shook that guy's hand and passed off that money. And money was worth about twice as much as it is now. And that guy seen that, and he put it in his pocket, and I just kind of gave him a wink, you know what I mean? And as we left, my wife's like, you didn't give him any money, did you? I was like, well, yeah, I gave him 300. She's like, I can't believe you robbed them people, blah, blah. She was mad at me. And I was like, I'm mad at you. Like, why are you going to chew me out? Give some old homeless people $300. You act like I robbed them? What the hell? Well, today, I was watching this guy's video that he made. And he's showing the things around the house and everything like that. And it needed a little work here and a little work there. And it was like all the right spots. And it just hits me. This dude is going to fix all this stuff. And these kids are going to know how to fix all this stuff. You know what I mean? And if one way or another it just gets given to him, they're going to miss out. But if they get just what they need, yeah. And it was like, my heart went out, and I want to feel that. And I'm not in a position to be giving nobody any money. I mean, I'm $300,000 in debt. Like, I just took out a $28,000 loan to be able to give people money on the side of the road that I run into randomly. I mean, that's how I roll. I mean, like, dude, I'm leveraged to the max, and like, how can I leverage some more? But I'm doing everything on signature loans. That way, I'm not refinancing. Like, I seen my uncle refinance his property a few times, right, to do what he had to do. So I'm not refinancing my house because I got this super good deal, this mortgage, everything. But I'm flipping credit card debt and refinancing that at a loan, and then got the credit card availability. You got this over here. So now I'm making 2 loan payments, and I got 2 credit cards. So now, like right now, I can live off the credit cards for probably 6 to 8 months and stack all my cash. And if I don't pay the credit cards and I don't pay the loans, they will give me a bad credit score. I'm from the end of the last dirt road. I don't care about a credit score. Now, I gave my word, so I'm going to pay them back. Don't get me wrong. And I built it up towards being able to have credibility enough to buy a semi truck and trailer. Maybe. I'm about to throw up just thinking about that. But the thought was, if I got my own authority to operate a trucking company, you surprise, $35,000 transmission. I want to be able to sign my name to whatever electronic device to get the work done and stay in business. That's kind of the thing. And actually build the business up to a prosperous amount of going in and doing to, not starve to death when I'm an old man, which I'm not going to starve to death because God provides or whatever, but I'm not doing all this so that I can be comfortable in the earth. I want to take over the earth for Jesus, and that you could. The number's 26 trillion. Just here's your super bonus. Like, what is the goal that Skip is shooting for? Not revenue, profit. 26 trillion with a T. $26 trillion. I'm trusting God for $26 trillion. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I mean, a guy's got to have a goal, right? So, and you think with something like that, you got to get on it, but it's not about get on it. It's about patience. Because in God's economy, you got to remember, God has 2 speeds, best I could tell. From what I've seen of him, he's got really long, drawn out, and then he's got suddenly. You know what I mean? Like, you be working and trying, and oh man, this and that, and nervous about this, and here's that, and oh my goodness, what's that? Oh, here's something else, yada yada. Somebody's messing it up. And then boom, suddenly, you get this breakthrough. Miracle. And I just trust all that to him. And I just want to be obedient in the moment. Because if I'm patient and I let patience have its perfect work, I will be complete lacking nothing. And if I am complete lacking nothing, that means that Jesus is in full control of the earth. And everybody on it. Like, everybody wants to be a Jesus. Everybody wants to live according to the Torah. Everybody wants to walk appropriately in each situation, full of grace. That is victory. And with $26 trillion, maybe we can all have a freaking, mountain lion Kawasaki motorcycle thing to go up and down the mountain. I don't even think I would want that, really. I mean, yeah, I want one because it's cool. You know what I mean? But the more I know, the more I measure wealth by how much I could live in a shack. I mean, it can be nice. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't have to be like, cobbled together. But just like low maintenance and, organic. Not really granola. I don't want to go full hippie commune because the whole mushroom pothead thing, I'm over it. You know what I mean? Like, I never really was into mushrooms anyway. Like, I've never taken mushrooms ever, actually. But that whole granola thing, and then like weed's not even weed. Weed is some type of hallucinogenic drug now. Weed, when I was smoking weed, sometimes you get some good weed, half the time you got some homegrown, and every now and then you got some no high. And it was so trashy that they called it no high. I mean, like, you smoke a whole bag of this stuff, you're not going to get high. Like, you're going to catch whooping cough, maybe. But you ain't going to catch a buzz. Like, if you got high off some of that weed, you could probably just breathe into a paper sack until you've ran out of oxygen. Like, just take deep breaths. You'll get a better head change than some of that stuff. It wasn't like, the bubonic chronic that makes you choke. It was a joke. And yeah, so. But, to be able to play some good music and blow a shofar and the neighbor hear it, know what you're talking about, sounds pretty cool. I would like to toot my bugle. Understand charge, retreat, fire, flood, help, whatever, have some signals so you can hear. Let him with the ear understand what the shofar notes mean. That would be sweet. And then just, I don't want to have to use an axe to cut wood. But the old ways are so much better. Like when God created the earth, they didn't have a steel chainsaw in the Garden of Eden. I mean, like, how much pruning and stuff did he do in the garden to make it cool? And I think about stuff like that. And I want it to be that way. And I think God wanted it that way because that's the way God made it. I'm not taking this big leap off into left field. You know what I'm saying? I'm really not. Like I'm getting down to earth with a biblical goodness. It's just, why not? Why would you not? And the only answers to that is I've been deceived somehow. And I look at it across this world, like I was talking with that guy this morning that prayed for me to have peace. Because I was like, dude, I have a broken and contrite heart. Because I'm like, these people could not. If the electricity goes out, these people could not get a drink of water without dying. Like, they would drink some water, get dysentery, and die of dehydration. They just shit their guts out and die. And like, they don't even they don't even know how to just like stack some leaves and rocks and pour the water through that and then boil it. I could take this stuff like in the bar ditch, right beside this highway out here, and that stupid Walmart sack right there, and go dip water out of a mud puddle, a river, a whatever, and then, filter it, and then heat it up in that pot right there, on that propane right there, or build a fire out yonder, and have water I could drink without getting sick. But here I am with all the modern conveniences, and I can't seem to find a shower every day. Is that good or bad? Well, when you find out what's in the water, bro. Here's a fun one for you. Get you some of them strips for the fluoride. Get you 2 shot glasses. Stick it in there, check it. Get you a fresh one, stick it in there, check it. You'll see it change color. Get you 2 more strips. Stick your finger in 1 shot glass. And then test them both again. And when you stuck your finger in, won't have any fluoride anymore because it sticks to your skin. It's terrible. It's terrible. You're poisoning yourself taking a shower. It just goes on and on. It just goes on and on. Like, I mean, there is a depopulation. You know this whole thing about carbon? You know which carbon they're trying to get rid of? You are a carbon-based life form. They are trying to kill us all. That's really true. And they are led by Satan. So anyway, I asked this guy to pray. So I asked this guy to pray for me to have peace. And you're going to love this. God is so much tougher than the devil. Like the God could just beat the living snot out of the devil. All of this evil stuff. Like, if you choose God's ways, like, I don't know how to say this and it not come across as some kind of BS, but man, you put your eggs in God's basket, and that's the safest place. And it's because He's so tough. And you should be the ultimate fear. There's a part in the Bible that says these things are not too hard. Surely these things are not too hard for you. And He's talking about keeping the law. And if you look, I believe it was John the Baptist's mom and dad. They were righteous keeping the law. So they say that only Jesus kept the whole entire law perfectly. Well, His role in the grand plan of everything was to fulfill the law of atonement. And He's the only one that could do that. Okay? Like this is a big deal right here. Jesus was the only one who could fulfill the law of atonement. But we all have the option to just obey the law. And if we obey the law, that's called obedience. So if I am obedient, I do not need a sacrifice. Have I ever been disobedient? Yes. Jesus never did. I cannot do that. But from right now until the day I die, I can do that. Am I going to fail? Well, probably. It's very highly likely that I will sin. Am I going to strive to not sin? Yes. Is it possible for me to take a particular sin and focus on that and just remove it and fill the gap with light and goodness and just pack out that part of my soul with goodness, light, and real true love, and habitually make a pattern of life and sustain that pattern for enough sequential days that the draw of that sin has shriveled up and died? Yeah, you can do that. That's the process. That's dying to self. Okay? So if, like I'm on a carb cycle right now. So I do, vitamins, minerals, workouts, all this other kind of stuff, right? But I also pick certain things that I consider sin where I feel like I am breaking a law and I don't want to do that. So I'll pick this thing because I'm stuck out in this truck. I'm gone for weeks at a time. So I have, I'm set apart from my family. I'm set apart from society. I don't even see my boss. Like, twice this year, I've laid eyes on the fella. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen the mechanics more than anybody, and I kind of tell them what to do. They call me boss, actually. Anyway, so I pick a sin, and I've had a particular about looking at women. Like I'll see a chick and like, look at her in the wrong way. Like I'll just look at like from a previous, when I was a young man, I'd look at you and decide whether or not I could win a fight. You know what I mean? And then when I'd look at chicks, I'd be like, would I breed with her? And then like, it wasn't like I was just going around breeding with everybody I seen or whatever else like that. But I would notice certain attributes and stuff like that, and I would look in a way that I myself would call lust. Now, I know by a lot of y'all's definition, what I'm talking about would not even be considered lust. Okay, I realize that I'm like your average thinking when I say the word lust is right here, and what I'm talking about is way more strict than what you're talking about if you're an average person. Okay, so I think about these things, and I've taken it all the way to the point of slight attraction. Okay, you notice certain things that are attractive about certain situations and everything else like that. Well, when it's a female human being, I've separated from that, where there is no lust, there's no consideration of those attributes or anything like that, and complete abstinence from any type of nocturnal emissions. We'll just leave it there, and focus in there. You know what I mean? Because like I'm telling you right now, you get on Facebook or any of these social medias or whatever else like that, and there's some cute girl talking about something, or you might just be on subject matter, and it's like politics or whatever else like that, and then there'd just be like some really hot chick that's on there or whatever else like that. I'll just change it immediately. You know what I mean? And then like if I see a pretty woman to whatever degree or anything else like that, and I'm interacting with them at the truck stop or anything like that, I'm just going straight to Jesus mode. And I've done that for a long time, right? So there's not like a active pursuit. And then like, herpes and shit. So it's like, it grosses me out to think, like if I meet a chick and she's down to bone in like 20 minutes, yeah, that's, dude, gross. Like she's nailed 30 dudes today, probably, and I'm just thinking, yuck. So it's not even an actual like find this chick and get her in the sack or anything else like that. This is a a breaking of pornography, a breaking of the minuscule, the little like they do this thing where they clean out all the leaven out of the house. They get rid of all the scent or whatever like that. I think it's like this weekend. But anyway, it's like a complete removal of lust. You know what I mean? And to try to maintain my marriage, but then also not have any feelings of, doing the deed or anything else like that. It's really been quite amazing to identify the line and not cross it. Identify the line and completely deny self in that area, because that's like a human instinct. And I've talked to several people that have talked about this, these certain topics like this, and the stuff everybody knows about, like the college age dude, sleep with anybody type of thing or whatever like that. And you got how that carries on, and there's all these different things, and dudes go to the bar to seek out the comforts and all this other kind, whatever like that. Dude, I didn't have that struggle. I didn't have that struggle. I mean, like, dude, I have no game. Okay, so like that wasn't a problem for me or whatever else like that. And then like the being set apart out here in this truck, being away from my wife, and the ability for naturals, and then there's like getting older or whatever. Dude, I'm 46 years old, and like the hydraulics are fully there. I mean, like, yeah, dude, it's a kickstand on a Harley Davidson every day, like every day, and not putting that to use in any way is a thing. But the headspace about it, and getting that, you know what I mean, and it's killing that part of me. You know what I'm saying? Just kill it, just fully. And that's like the last thing. That was the only thing I've never mastered. You know what I mean? I go back and I look at the law. Here's this, here's that. Do this, don't do that. Blah blah blah. The only thing I've never mastered was the ability to not have any lust, not the smallest little scrap. Like, you walk into the Taj Mahal and there's 3 grains of dust in the whole building. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I found the 3 grains and got rid of them. And that's a accomplishment. And that's not me. That is not possible for me to do that. That is God working in me. That's me being patient, allowing that to happen. In the quest for completeness, that's a requirement for me to fulfill my role in this grand plan of humanity, in this thing called time. So that's real good. The fact that he'll give you that power. You know what I mean? Like, dude, if I'm running a crew and I'm like, hey man, we got to tear off 100 square on this building, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to make sure that I've already got the material. I've already, got signed contracts. I've already got the equipment. I've already got the material coming and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Way before I ever hire a guy to tear the roof off. You know what I mean? And then I'm going to be right beside that guy, and we're going to be tearing this roof off, because if the situation changes, you know, in the first 10 minutes of tearing off a new roof, you can tell layers of roof that you can't tell any other way. I mean, you can do core samples and stuff like that, but it's still going to be different. You know what I mean? You might take a core sample, and then, you know, that's right here, and that was a, you know, might be different over there. Whatever. So you got a pretty good idea, but you don't know until you know. So I'm going to be on that job site right there, so I know what I know. That way I know that my guys have what they need to succeed. Because I got to fill this contract, and I got to budget time and money and effort, and, you know, pull permits, all kind of, it's a deal. It's a lot. So for this to come together, I'm going to be on that roof next to my guy that's doing the work. I'm going to be doing the work. I'm not going to ask him to do what I can't do. Why would God be any different? You know what I mean? You know, like I'm remodeling the temple. You know what I mean? This carcass is going to give out, but this soul has to be able to walk purely. You know what I mean? I got to be pure. I got to be able to step into the new earth with no greed, with no lust, with a pure desire to live right, do right, be the hands and feet. You know what I mean? Go and do and do and go in an appropriate manner as a representative of the Most High. That's, I mean, that's a pretty significant mountain to climb. But I'm not going to go to Mount Everest and show up at base camp and be like, well, we did it. I want to show up and climb the mountain. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm just really proud of God. I don't know if saying I'm proud of God is the right way to put it, but the gist of what I'm trying to say is it's possible. Have courage. Be patient. And don't worry. If he can save me, he can save anybody. You know what I mean? If you see or have heard any good thing in this, any of these messages, that's all him. That's not me. That's not me. I mean, it's my personality. It's my way of putting things, and my creativity to a degree on some stuff. But all the victory's his. All the victory's his. Every bit of it. And it's amazing. I need to do more Bible study, I guess, less talking. But this is just like a healing phase, and this is a season of confession. You know what I mean? And I hope that you see that. I hope that you could go to God. It seems to help me if I got a fire going. You know, you throw some wood on fire, just watch the fire burning. I talk to God like I'm talking to this phone right now, you know, and it might help for you to make a video. You know what I mean? If part of your self-development is seeing yourself for who you really are. Like, I didn't realize, because like my nose plugged up, so I breathe out of my mouth, so I'm like, a lot. And then I got online to do this Zoom conference thingy, and I was at home. I think we all got froze out, and I was on the computer. I think it was a AA online. I was watching that deal, and I seen myself sitting there with my mouth open. I'm like, man, I look like a doofus. But it was the first time I ever seen myself looking like that, or whatever. And then I was like, that's why them DOT are leaving me alone. They're like, this guy's too stupid to do anything. This guy looks like this dude's a mouth breather. He's not some kind of mastermind trying to be some type of smuggler or whatever. Like, you know, like any, you know, cops, they just think everybody's up to something. They look at my dumb ass, they're just like, no, probably not here. Get, move along. Pull up there, and they're like, are you a U.S. citizen? I'm just sitting there like, yeah. What's in the truck? I don't know. Let me look. Oh, we got batteries. All right, move along, sir. Move along. Nothing to see here, folks. I've used that, pretend I don't know what's going on so many times. I heard somebody say earlier today, they said, you can't wake somebody up that's pretending to be asleep. It was a horrific topic that she was talking about. I didn't even go get into that, but how true. You can't wake somebody up that's pretending to be asleep. All right, well, Raquel, and go get them. Sorry this was so long, but you know what? It's going to be a while. I'm going to have to take a few days off of this thing, I think, coming up pretty soon. And I say that I'll make 7 videos a day. just another short video from the Skipopotamus. Coming to you live. I think I might need to start doing a news series. It seems like there's so much news going on that nobody can keep up with it. And I'm not afraid of talking for hours at a time. It just doesn't seem like I can do anything about it. But to sum things up, they're going to move to a digital interact. It's probably going to be a Bitcoin to settle international monetary things, trade. Buying, selling Bitcoin will be the new, and then like they're not going to remonetize gold. All y'all that's bought all that gold, man, that's I heard a guy say sometime, he said, if everybody's buying something, don't buy it. And then if like if everybody's selling to get out of the market, wait a little bit. Then as it goes down, once it gets down there pretty low, buy it while it's, buy the dip. If everybody's panicking and selling, do not sell. Well, what's everybody been doing? Buying a shitload of gold. Everybody's been doing that. China's been doing it. Like over there in Britain, they had such a thing where like they couldn't even give enough gold away. But there's several countries that are wealthy, like the Arabs. Arabs got a lot of money. They don't tell everybody how much money they got, but they got trillions of dollars, right? And they've been interacting amongst each other and other nations using Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like you can't that blockchain stuff, they think that it can't be manipulated, so it's got faith behind it. So right now there's more faith in the Bitcoin than any other currency, because the other currencies ain't backed with nothing. So there might be a digital dollar backed with Bitcoin pretty soon. That's probably like the American way. And then and we see the tariffs bringing everybody to the table to talk. So in these talks, they're putting in trade agreements that, hey, your digital dollar is worth X and my digital dollar is worth XX into this trade agreement thing. That's what's happening. That's the restructuring that we're seeing. And yeah, Donald Trump is trying to secure American monetary dominance with the ability to make just enough stuff here that everybody else ain't got leverage over us. But unfortunately, it is in my opinion that the book of Revelations clearly says it ain't gonna work. And when they declare peace, that's where they'll go down. They're going to have something going on over yonder. They're going to declare peace. Sleeper cells open up. Crash of the electricals. We start, fussing amongst ourselves. The bear and the dragon make a move on Israel. Jesus shows up. But that scenario could start at any moment. And then we'll probably see, you want to watch, a couple things you want to watch for. Did they build the temple? Is Damascus uninhabitable? Well, I've seen some pictures of Damascus bombed out pretty bad a few years ago. I don't know what state it's in right now. Ain't been keeping up with it. And then, what's the breeze doing? If you hear something about there's no wind anywhere on Earth, it's over. That's a wrap. As long as there's a breeze somewhere, it ain't over yet. Like if somebody said Jesus showed up, but you didn't see it yourself, that's fake Jesus. Because we will all know when Jesus shows up. Everybody will see it worldwide. There's no counterfeit to that deal. It's quite the opposite. All right, well, Rock Hill, go get him.